Okay, guys, it's been a long time since my last newsletter, and so we've been out of sight and out of mind for a long time. But I'll tell you, we've been busy like you can't believe. And the stuff that we have to show you now and talk about now, we're opening a new webinar series. You guys are going to be able to get in on that. That's going out in the newsletter itself. The link to be able to join up and get onto that. It's going to be an ongoing thing with recordings. It's serious. A lot happening. Too much for me to really go through right now in this recording, but let me explain what's happening and how it affects you. Just starting at the beginning, kind of reviewing where we came from. For instance, the first thing we put out that was big was the Mowg system, and that was huge. It allowed a lot of people to create web pages, a lot of them. It allowed people to do work for clients, it allowed people to study SEO, get to know some HTML coding, all that kind of thing. It was a big deal. A lot of people got paid very well from that. And then what we had that we came out with next was the T-Fan. And by the way, the Moji, that thing was pretty base frame by now, as you know. But anyway, T-Fan. Then we came out with the T-Fan, and the T-Fan was the answer to not buying tools from internet gurus anymore most of the time. You really don't need to. Contacting tools, auto posting tools, auto replying tools, all that kind of thing. Learn how to do it yourself. Go find websites people haven't thought of, create an auto poster, auto replier, auto responder, and stuff like that, and be contacting thousands of people an hour, one way or another, with your ad. This made people a ridiculous amount of money. You see, I never thought I could teach people how to do this, but it worked. Our average Joes are going, average Joes, our clients, a lot of them are average Joes. And they're going through the training in just, the 15 hours or so of training it is, the TFAN tutorial, and they're just cracking stuff out. We got guys within a month just started being able to work for a month and then quit working for 3 or 4 months. And during that time, they'll just take a couple of trips to Europe. A lot of people making a lot of money doing TFAN stuff, and that's still going on today. So where Moji, we don't use it in the same form that we used to use it anymore. Now it's more framework. TFAN is still exactly happening the way it is. Moji is applicable to a bigger process. It's part and parcel. But whatever the case, that's the TFAN stuff that we were doing with TFAN. So there's that. And then we started talking about combining them. How do you combine Moji and TFAN? See, TFAN lets you contact people actively. That is, you're not waiting for them to go to Google and search for you. That's what Moji does. Moji is all about if somebody goes looking, I want to buy a thing that you sell, and they go to Google or MSN or Yahoo and start searching for it. That's what Moji's for. That's about getting a lot of web pages out there that Google says okay to. We have not yet had an issue of anybody being de-indexed for following our system. Not yet. That system's run for a couple of years. And it's, I haven't taken a look at the final count on that, but there's just a huge number of websites that have been produced with that. That's wild. And that was before we got into the WordPress angle. TFAN has been about saying they aren't looking in Google for me, or maybe they are, but I'm not trying to create web pages. I'm trying to create ads, and I want to get them into people's hands hard and fast. So this is active marketing, and this is passive marketing. Between the two, you've pretty much covered the gamut on the internet. You're kind of doing both at the same time. And so the question is, can you combine Moji and TFAN? And the answer is yes. We certainly started to. One of my members took that to heart, and he said, well, let me look at some way to combine Moji and TFAN. Let me figure out how to do it. And he came up with the next thing, which is WordPress, actually. And so WordPress became a very big deal, because now we started to see things we could never see before with the Moji system by itself. 5,500 pages being indexed in a weekend. And then the stuff that's coming out of it, the hits and so forth, and what I've been hearing from different people who've been doing this, and what we've seen from people qualifying for our production line as they do this, just huge results. And a lot of people are getting paid, a lot of people are getting visitors. I've heard from guys who are getting no less than 2,500 visitors a day to a website using the WordPress system, and doing some other tricks and tweaks and stuff that TFAN helps with. Just to foister it up, like backlink generation, stuff like that. And that also uses the Mojis. The Moji toolbar to generate different ads, and then TFAN to get those ads out all over the place. And just the results are insane. And the money coming out of it is just ridiculous. And so What now? We realized that it's easy enough when you're selling runs professionally. Our market changed. All of a sudden, we're not selling WordPress runs to small folks who are for 2,500 bucks anymore. We're selling full out professional WordPress runs, very large ones that we want to use experts to do, and we want to add great services to do. And by the way, I'm just saying that's where it came from. We're past that now. We said we want to sell these to mid-sized companies, small companies, mid-sized companies, full scale, and make sure that they deliver what they're supposed to fully. And we need a lot of people to pull that off. And we need to be able to do it efficiently because we've always been able to sell WordPress runs quickly. WordPress Moji, it's really what it is. Moji WP, Moji WordPress. We've been able to sell them quickly, and yet you can only sell like two a month if you're working alone. Because if you're working alone, and we have guys who are selling these runs for $15,000 to $30,000 a pop to companies who are paying for them, not because they're going to get a ton of traffic instantly, but because they need to saturate Google properly. They need to get that presence. They need to show up on the front pages of searches. And with the way we do it now, they get an incredibly good chance of being clicked on because someone likes their message very much. And I'll break into that definitely on the webinars. You'll be surprised how cool that is. But we took someone in who taught, some of us have a knack for creating a good selling page and the right text that goes in on the title tag and the meta description. Some people don't have a knack. But we have somebody who's degreed and taught this stuff at Cornell University who's working with us now. Part of a WordPress run at this level begins with a phone call to the client once they've paid and they're in, where we go for about an hour with the right person there at their company to make sure that we figure out everything that we're supposed to say on the page. So we don't say, give us your content. We say, your content probably stinks. Hate to tell you, but you're probably selling it to people instead of writing it in such a way that you're selling it, as opposed to writing it in such a way that your market receives it. And that's very typical. And I'll give you a stupid simple example of that. Just go into Google. I had a law client once, and they did divorces. It's a big deal for them. But the majority of their, and it's showing Washington State because that's where I am, they're doing divorces, and the majority of their clients are women. They tend to focus on that, right? And so if you're thinking about the woman or the woman or whatever, here's what we would find. Search, we've seen this page, okay? Aside from the videos, when we're looking at content, right? We would see stuff like this, tips for starting over and everything else. And some of these guys are sitting here in the first, second place. But we went down, and it's been a long time since I've looked to see what people are doing here. But when I was looking at it, a lot of these were written, and they were like fact stuff, need to know the right penal codes and all the little laws and all this and all that and all that. It was almost like it was pitched at a man. Halfway down or so, we saw something like Divorced Woman Online, and it was, it wasn't this, but it was written for a woman for sure. It was something along the lines of, yeah, we understand your pain. We have other women that can help support you. We know all the right stuff to do. It was written for the woman. Okay, the kind of thing I couldn't do directly, but I could draw it out of the client if I spend enough time on the phone with them, except that I'm not degreed in that stuff. I just have a knack for it. It's not even close. I've presented stuff that I've written that I thought was cool to this lady. The lady that we have that's running the show now, she's going to be training the other, you could say, freelancers. They're kind of like copyright freelancers on how to talk to the client and get the content right for our production line runs, the pro runs. And she gets paid for teaching them, and they get paid for doing that work so that we can do more than 2 runs a month. You see where this is going? Because let's get to where we're really headed with all this stuff, because that's what matters. What I did find from the page that wrote to the woman, whatever that was at the time, I found that link was getting like 100, it might have even been 500. It was a huge number, 100 times as many visitors as any of the top 4 or 5 it was, something like that, right? Maybe the top 3. It was amazing, but it was crystal clear. Being on the front page for a search doesn't just like guarantee you get clicked on, and it certainly doesn't guarantee that you get the most visitors, what matters the most, especially for a woman, if you're thinking about that market, she will look to see what her options are. She'll tend to go through the first several.